At 93, Angie Dickinson is finally opening up about Robert Redford, and her story packs real emotional punch. Born Angeline Brown on September 30th, 1931 in the small town of Culm, North Dakota, Angie's journey from humble beginnings to Hollywood royalty is nothing short of incredible. She grew up far from the glamour and lights, yet those quiet roots lit a spark that would soon make her one of the most magnetic women ever to grace the screen. Her parents, Frederica and Leo Henry Brown, were a hard-working couple of German descent who battled through the Great Depression with grit and hope. That tough upbringing taught Angie resilience. She learned early how to stand tall, speak up, and fight for her place in the world. When the family moved to Burbank, California, things started to shift. Angie enrolled at Immaculate Heart College and later Glendale College, where her charm, quick wit, and undeniable confidence turned heads wherever she went. At first, Angie dreamed of telling stories from behind the scenes, maybe as a writer or producer, quietly shaping Hollywood magic. But fate had other plans. When she entered a local beauty pageant in the early 1950s, everything changed. The moment she walked on stage, casting directors couldn't look away. With her smoky voice, unforgettable presence, and fierce confidence, she became a star in the making. And Hollywood would never be the same again. Angie's rise wasn't instant, but once she hit the screen, she made sure no one forgot her. She started out with small but unforgettable roles in both TV and film, showing right away that she had that rare spark, the kind of presence that made every scene pop. In those early years, she worked tirelessly, appearing in hit anthology series and westerns that ruled the airwaves at the time. By the mid-1950s, Angie was already standing shoulder to shoulder with Hollywood heavyweights, building her confidence and refining that effortless charm that would soon make her unstoppable. Her major breakout moment came in 1959 with Howard Hawks' Western classic Rio Bravo. Angie starred alongside screen icons like John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Ricky Nelson, and absolutely owned the role of Feathers, the bold yet tender saloon girl who captivated both the audience and her co-stars. That performance turned Angie Dickinson into a household name overnight, proving she could hold her own among the biggest male stars in the business and steal the spotlight while doing it. Throughout the 1960s, Angie didn't just work. She conquered. She became one of the most sought-after actresses in Hollywood, effortlessly switching from westerns to thrillers to glamorous love stories. Audiences were drawn to her magnetic balance of elegance and fire, while critics couldn't get enough of her emotional depth and fearless authenticity. One of her standout moments came in Ocean's 11, 1960, where she starred alongside Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack, a role that cemented her as both a powerhouse performer and a style sensation. Angie didn't just act, she defined what it meant to be a modern woman in Hollywood: fierce, confident, and unapologetically glamorous. Her dazzling red carpet looks and timeless beauty had magazines chasing her for every cover, and her bold fashion choices inspired women everywhere to embrace their strength with grace. By the late 1960s and into the 1970s, Angie had become a true Hollywood icon, working with the biggest names in the industry and standing tall among the elite. Her success continued with unforgettable roles in The Killers, 1964, Point Blank, 1967, and Big Bad Mama, 1974, each one showing a new side of her daring spirit. Angie wasn't afraid to take on roles that challenged stereotypes or pushed boundaries for women on screen. That fearless versatility became her trademark, proving she could switch from intense drama to thrilling action to sharp-witted comedy without missing a beat. Angie Dickinson's screen presence was impossible to miss, bold, magnetic, and dripping with class. During the 1970s, her career hit a whole new level when she took on the fearless role of Sergeant Suzanne Pepper Anderson in the hit TV series Policewoman from 1974 to 1978. This wasn't just another crime show. It flipped the script completely by putting a woman front and center in a world that had always been ruled by men, and audiences loved it. Angie's Pepper wasn't just a tough cop. She was stylish, clever, and full of confidence. Fans couldn't get enough of the way she brought both grit and grace to the role. She showed strength without losing her warmth, and that balance struck a deep chord with viewers everywhere. Critics praised her performance for being real and refreshing, and suddenly, Angie wasn't just a Hollywood star. She became a trailblazer who opened doors for every strong female character that came after her. Her performance earned her Golden Globe nominations and even major awards, proving that she wasn't just playing the part. She owned it. Millions of women looked up to her confidence, her drive, and her ability to command respect on screen while staying true to herself. Even after Policewoman ended, Angie refused to fade into the background. While Hollywood often overlooked mature actresses, she just kept shining, taking on roles that showed she was as powerful as ever. One of her most memorable later performances came in Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill, 1980, where she played a lonely housewife searching for connection. The emotion she brought to that role was raw, heartbreaking, and unforgettable. A perfect reminder that Angie wasn't just glamorous, she was deeply talented. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Angie kept proving she had staying power. She didn't settle for easy scripts. She chased roles with depth, challenge, and meaning. Every new project reflected her evolution as both a performer and a woman who'd lived, learned, and refused to back down. Angie Dickinson's personal journey mirrored her career, full of triumphs, heartbreaks, and moments that molded her into the fearless legend we still admire today. Angie Dickinson's love life was as fascinating as her career, full of passion, change, and lessons learned along the way. Her first marriage came in 1952 to Gene Dickinson, a former college football star known for his discipline and classic all-American charm. After hanging up his cleats, Gene moved into the booming post-war electronics industry, while Angie was just starting to chase her Hollywood dreams. Their marriage officially lasted until 1960, though they had already gone their separate ways a few years earlier, showing that even early on, their paths were heading in different directions. Still, Gene played an important part in Angie's early journey. During the uncertain years when she was finding her footing in showbiz, he offered encouragement and structure. And even after the split, she made a bold decision that would shape her career forever. Angie chose to keep the Dickinson last name, a move that gave her identity a lasting mark in Hollywood. That single choice gave her stability and recognition at a time when names could make or break a career. It became her signature, helping her carve out a powerful brand and stand tall in an industry known for reinvention. Angie Dickinson wasn't just a name, it became a statement. While she was married to Gene, Angie also built meaningful friendships outside of Hollywood's glitz. She connected with John Kenneth Galbraith, one of the most respected economists of his time, and his wife, Catherine. The Galbraiths were deeply rooted in the worlds of politics, diplomacy, and culture. And through them, Angie found herself expanding her horizons far beyond film sets and red carpets. Those friendships gave her rare insight into global issues and the deeper layers of society. When John Kenneth Galbraith was appointed as the U.S. ambassador to India by President John F. Kennedy, Angie even traveled abroad to visit him and Catherine, an experience that completely changed her perspective. Her time exploring India and witnessing another side of the world's culture left a lifelong impression. Galbraith later mentioned her in both his memoir Ambassador's Journal and A Life in Our Times, proof of how genuine their friendship truly was and how naturally Angie fit into elite circles where intellect, class, and influence collided. Then, in 1965, Angie's life took another glamorous turn when she married legendary composer and songwriter Burt Bacharach. Burt was already a powerhouse in the music industry, known for his smooth melodies and timeless hits, and together they became one of Hollywood's most dazzling power couples. Their relationship blended movie star magnetism with musical brilliance, and everywhere they went, they turned heads. In an era filled with iconic duos, Angie and Burt stood out as a mix of style, sophistication, and undeniable star energy. Their marriage lasted 16 years, an impressive stretch by Hollywood standards, but it wasn't without its storms. Angie Dickinson and Burt Bacharach's relationship had its share of passion, distance, and emotional twists. Over the years, they separated, reconnected, and drifted apart again, showing just how complex love can be when two creative powerhouses are living under constant pressure and the unblinking eye of fame. A major turning point in their lives came on July 12, 1966, when Angie gave birth to their daughter, Nikki. From the start, Nikki faced unique challenges due to autism, at a time when awareness and support were almost non-existent. Angie and Bert devoted themselves fully to her care, shaping their lives around making sure she was surrounded by compassion, comfort, and unconditional love. Despite all the fame and success, Angie's most important role became motherhood, and she carried it with deep commitment and grace. Nikki's journey was long and difficult, and when she passed away on January 4th, 2007, at just 40 years old, it left an ache that never truly faded. The loss was devastating for both parents, but Angie's strength never wavered. She continued to speak out with empathy and understanding for others facing similar challenges, determined to keep Nikki's spirit alive through advocacy, awareness, and love. Her openness about that part of her life gave hope to countless families walking similar paths. Meanwhile, Burt Bacharach's story continued in his own way. Even after their marriage ended, he remained a towering figure in the music world, writing timeless songs that touched millions. His talent and influence carried on for decades, and when he passed peacefully in 2023 at the age of 94, tributes poured in from across the globe, celebrating a man whose melodies shaped generations. For Angie, her marriages, to Angie Dickinson, and later to Burt Bacharach, and her life as Nikki's mother, became the core chapters of her personal journey. They were filled with love, heartbreak, courage, and resilience. Behind the glamour, Angie proved that strength isn't about perfection. It's about surviving the storms with dignity and still finding beauty in what remains. Now, at 93, after nearly a century of watching Hollywood's brightest lights rise and fade, Angie Dickinson finally decided to speak out about her longtime friend, Robert Redford, and her words carried the weight of a lifetime. On September 16, 2025, the world woke up to heartbreaking news. Legendary actor and director Robert Redford had passed away peacefully at his home in Sundance, Utah, at the age of 89. His passing sent ripples through Hollywood, stirring memories of an era defined by his talent, charm, and vision. Redford wasn't just an actor. He was a force who helped shape the golden age of American cinema and later built an empire of creativity through the Sundance Film Festival. But for Angie, the loss wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. She and Redford shared a bond that spanned decades, crossing paths countless times throughout their careers. Sometimes they were co-stars, sometimes quiet supporters from a distance. But always, there was mutual respect, admiration, and a spark of understanding that never faded. For her, Redford's passing wasn't just the end of an era, it was the closing of a chapter written in silence, memories, and a kind of timeless connection that words can barely describe. When Angie was asked what Robert Redford's passing meant to her, she took a long pause before answering, her voice calm but filled with emotion and memories that spanned decades. She said Robert was one of those rare men in Hollywood, not just known for his looks, which everyone noticed instantly, but for his integrity, something that's not always easy to hold on to in that industry. She spoke about how he carried himself with quiet confidence, never loud, never arrogant, but strong in his own way. Redford always believed in doing things on his terms. He didn't let the studios or the media dictate who he was, and that kind of independence made him stand out. For Angie, who had spent years breaking barriers in a business that often tried to limit women, that quality meant something deeply personal. She admired how he stayed true to himself when so many others lost their way chasing fame. Angie went on to recall their early days in the 1960s, back when both of them were still finding their place in Hollywood. I remember seeing him when he was still this young, almost shy actor, she shared. He wasn't yet the Robert Redford the whole world would come to know, but even then, he had that unmistakable spark. When he walked into a room, the air shifted. You could feel his presence before he said a word. It was like watching destiny take shape right in front of you. At that time, Angie was already getting attention for her talent. But what stood out to her about Robert wasn't his fame or his appearance. It was his humility. He didn't act like the center of the universe, even though everyone could see he had the kind of natural magnetism most stars could only dream of. That quiet respect he showed toward others stayed with Angie for years. As she reflected, she began opening up about what it was really like to be a woman in Hollywood during that same era. How surviving in a world built around powerful men meant standing tall, staying sharp, and never losing yourself. For Angie Dickinson, Robert Redford wasn't just a colleague. He represented a kind of decency that was becoming harder and harder to find. "I'll be honest," Angie said, her tone calm but full of truth. Sometimes it was frustrating. She explained that Robert Redford had opportunities that women just didn't get back then. He could play the rugged hero, the romantic lead, or the political visionary. And audiences, critics, and studios took him seriously every single time. For women, though, the rules were different. They had to work twice as hard just to earn half the respect. Angie admitted that those double standards could be exhausting, but she never stopped pushing through them. Even with all that, she made one thing crystal clear. Robert Redford always treated the women he worked with genuine respect. "He never treated us like we were just there to decorate the screen," she said. "He listened, really listened, and that meant a lot." You could hear in her voice that those memories still carried weight. She had lived through a time when being respected as a woman in Hollywood wasn't guaranteed. In fact, it was rare. And Redford's attitude stood out because it was built on kindness, not ego. Angie also spoke with warmth about Redford's lifelong activism, how he cared deeply about the environment and about helping others rise in the industry. "Robert wasn't just about making movies," she said with pride. "He wanted to make a difference, even if it was just a little." She talked about how the Sundance Film Festival became more than just a platform. It became a dream factory for young filmmakers who otherwise would have been overlooked by major studios. "He gave them hope," she said softly. "That generosity, that vision, that's something I'll always admire." Then came the question everyone had secretly wondered about for decades. Had she and Redford ever shared something more than friendship? Angie responded with one of her famous half smiles, that knowing look that said she was holding more than she'd reveal. "People always ask that," she laughed. "Robert was the kind of man women adored, and I was no exception." But she set the record straight right after. "The truth is, we never had a romance," she explained. "We respected each other, we enjoyed each other's company, but it was never that. And maybe that's exactly why their connection lasted so long. No drama, no heartbreak, no messy history, just mutual admiration and an unspoken understanding that didn't need labels." Still, Angie didn't deny his undeniable charm, and everyone knew it was real. She smiled, remembering it, saying he had that rare mix of boyishness and strength that made him magnetic. Even as he got older, she reflected, and life began to show on his face, that spark never left his eyes. That look, the one that made you feel like you were the only person in the room, was what made Robert Redford unforgettable. Angie knew that kind of magic couldn't be taught or faked. It was a gift, rare, timeless, and genuine. And Robert had it from the very beginning. When the conversation turned to Robert Redford's passing, Angie's voice softened, the kind of tone that carries decades of emotion, memories, and quiet heartbreak. Her words slowed, her expression calm, but filled with the weight of real loss. "It breaks my heart to know he's gone," she said gently, and for a moment, the room fell silent. There was no performance, no polished Hollywood script, just raw honesty from a woman who had lived through it all. Even through her sadness, there was peace in her voice, a sense of comfort in knowing he had left the world on his own terms. Angie said she took solace in the fact that Robert passed peacefully in the home he built himself in Sundance, Utah. That place wasn't just a house. It was his heartbeat, the very center of his world. That was his sanctuary, she explained softly, and I think that's exactly how he would have wanted it. She paused for a long moment, her gaze distant, as if she could still see him there, the golden light hitting the mountains, the wind moving through the trees, the peace he found far away from flashing cameras. That place, she continued, it wasn't about fame, it was about freedom, about creating something that felt real. For her, that was the version of Redford she would always remember. Not just the actor or director, not the face on a movie poster, but the man who found meaning in simplicity. Angie said his love for nature, creativity, and authenticity reminded her that even in a world built on illusion, it's still possible to live truthfully. He showed that you can make it to the top without losing your soul, she said, her voice firm but tender. Taking a deep breath, Angie spoke about what she would carry forward from knowing him, the lessons that would stay long after the grief had faded. "I'll miss him terribly," she admitted, her words trembling with sincerity. But I'll also carry with me what he stood for, that you can be successful and still be decent. You can be famous and still be private. You can chase your dreams and never forget where you came from. Her words hung in the air, simple but heavy with meaning. Angie wasn't just talking about Redford. She was talking about the kind of legacy that lasts, the kind that isn't written on awards or billboards, but in the quiet ways a person impacts those around them. She admired that Robert never got lost in the noise of fame. He never pretended to be something he wasn't, she said. That kind of honesty, it's rare. Throughout her long career, Angie had seen Hollywood change. The rise of stardom, the price of fame, the loneliness that hides behind success. Yet, she said Redford never seemed consumed by it. He was grounded, she reflected. He had his own rhythm. He didn't chase the spotlight. It followed him. And that's what she loved most, his ability to stay humble in a world that demanded ego. He treated people with care, whether they were seasoned actors or newcomers just trying to make their way. Angie said that respect defined him. He made everyone around him feel seen, she said softly. That's something you don't forget. As she spoke, her tone shifted from sorrow to quiet admiration. She talked about his passion for giving back, how he used his platform not for attention, but to help others find their voice. Robert wasn't just about making movies, she said. He wanted to make a difference. She smiled faintly, her eyes glimmering with pride. Sundance gave opportunities to young filmmakers who never would have had a shot in the system. He opened doors the studios kept shut. To Angie, that was his greatest legacy. Not just the films, but the movement he built for creative freedom. He believed in talent before fame, she said. He gave people hope when no one else would. That generosity, that vision, that's something I'll always admire. Then, someone finally asked the question everyone had quietly wondered for years. Had she and Redford ever shared something deeper than friendship? Angie let out a soft laugh, her classic half-smile returning, the one that always seemed to hide more than it revealed. People always ask that, she said playfully. Robert was the kind of man women adored, and I was no exception. But then her expression softened. The truth is, we never had a romance, she explained. We respected each other too much for that. We enjoyed each other's company, but it was never more than that. She paused, then added, maybe that's why it lasted so long. No drama, no heartbreak, no tangled history, just respect and understanding. She smiled again, almost wistfully. We didn't need to say much. We just got each other. That kind of bond, she said, is rare in Hollywood, where relationships are often short-lived and built on image. But with Robert, there was trust. Quiet, steady, and real. Angie didn't shy away from admitting what everyone already knew. Redford had an irresistible charm. He had that perfect mix, she said, smiling. Boyish and strong, humble and sure of himself. Even as the years passed and age drew new lines across his face, that spark in his eyes never faded. That look, she said softly, it made you feel like you were the only person in the world. It wasn't about flirting or fame. It was about presence, that rare energy that could fill a room and make everyone feel special. Angie said that's what she'd miss most, that quiet power, that warmth that never needed words. As she looked back on it all, her voice grew reflective. Robert was the real thing, she said firmly. They don't make them like him anymore. The world feels a little emptier without him. Then, turning to the camera with a soft, emotional smile, Angie left one final message for everyone listening. If his life teaches us anything, it's that being true to yourself is the most beautiful thing you can be. If you felt something real hearing her story, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with someone who loves old Hollywood, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories just like this one. See you on the next one.